University of the Philippines has played a key role in all of these developments. There is a next frontier. The next frontier is linking science, engineering, and industry, symbolized by the rise of the UP North Science and Technology Park, among others. The goal is to develop SNT-based industries, and for the Philippines to become part of the knowledge economy. What will building this new system entail? In conversations with science and technology colleagues, I have often cited two examples which illustrate the tasks and new challenges ahead of us. In our pursuit of SNT-based industries and technological competitiveness, we often speak of India as a model. And we're academics, so what we tend to see are the IITs, the Indian Institute of Technology, and the Tata Institutes, great research institutes. They are indeed important, and we have to strive to reach their levels. But what we fail to see is equally important. I often remind colleagues that the IT revolution in India had small beginnings a few decades ago. Much of it started because Indian scientists and engineers who were in the United States saw an opportunity in the growing software development needs of US companies. They started going to these companies and telling them, we can meet your software needs cheaper and faster. And if they got a contract, they turned around and sent the request over to India, and actually in time, over 24 or 48 hours, they were able to give the software solution. They were integrators and entrepreneurs. They connected technology capability in India to markets in the United States. So key to the development of the great ICT industries in India were the links built between markets in the United States and technical capabilities in India. Second example, in a recent meeting with the technical working groups for the Congressional Commission on Science and Technology Education, led by Senator Angara, I reminded the group of a Business Week article on Silicon Valley a few years ago. The article pointed out that the success of Silicon Valley owed not just to the techies, but to the seamless structure between the technology innovators, one, venture capitalists, two, and the legal and regulatory framework that distributed both profit and risk. They had actually a cute picture of David Packard and Bill Hewlett as bench warmers of the Stanford football team. This allowed innovators to fail and remain standing so they could try again. As we all know, many of the great successes came after 2 or 3 earlier failures. So, there are many pieces that have to come seamlessly together if we are to achieve our goals. How can these pieces come together? What I can contribute to this journey to the next frontier is to share my experience and that of many UP colleagues in earlier stages of our journey to develop science and technology in our country. So first, the UP Ateneo de la Salle Consortium that Dr. Jerry Cao referred to. It's good to remember that in the early 1970s, we only had 2 PhDs in mathematics, myself and Dr. Favila of UP. A few years later, Dr. Marasigan joined us. The situation was not any better in physics, a little better in chemistry. What started the journey was a group of Filipino scientists who came together to do something about the state of mathematics and science PhD programs and research. Our analysis of the situation at that time was we had good BS programs. We sent everybody to the United States or elsewhere for their PhDs, but that strategy was not working. First, few returned. And secondly, because they studied in so many different universities and in such diverse research topics, they could not build research groups at home. We thus decided to sign the sandwich programs and engage colleagues from abroad. It actually began with good friends from Singapore helping us with arrangements and working out finances so that our meager local funds would suffice. It was just friendship in the beginning. Then scientific colleagues in Australia and Japan helped us access support from institutions. The Australian University's International Development Program in Australia and the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science in Japan. What I do want to highlight is that it was friends and colleagues who got this started. If you reflect on the process, you can see a group of Filipino science colleagues widening their network with university administration, science funding agencies, colleagues and institutions from abroad. It was this network of science colleagues and friends who built the needed pieces, the PhD curriculum, the delivery of the courses, the research topics, and put the pieces together with the support of many. I often tell the story from Professor Koji Siga, I don't know if Dr. Jericho remembers him, who was the first visitor in the mathematics exchange program of the JSPS. He told me a few years after his first visit that just before he came, he got a phone call from Professor Kawada, who was leading the program, and Professor Kawada told him, "You're going to the Philippines. You will be running a seminar in complex manifolds. You should prepare your lectures well. But," he said, "your real first task is to make friends." Professor Kawada said, "This is going to be a long-term exchange. And a long-term exchange can only work if it is based on friendship." And since today is the feast of our Jesuit founder, St. Ignatius, allow me to inject a Jesuit aside. In 2006, 2 years ago, the Jesuits celebrated an important jubilee, the 500th anniversary of the birth of St. Ignatius, and of the birth of St. Francis Xavier and Blessed Peter Favor, and the 450th anniversary of the death of St. Ignatius. What I wanted to share was that Ignatius, Francis, and Peter met as fellow students in the University of Paris in the late 1520s and 1530s. They actually shared the same dorm or apartment, one of those accidents of history. And so 2006 was a time for us to remember that the Jesuit order was established by a group of university friends. The group would grow to 10, whom we call our first fathers, who banded together and called themselves Amigos en el Señor, friends in the Lord. The second project I would like to reflect on with you, because the network had to grow, was the Engineering and Science Education Project, ESSEP, in the 1990s. After the EDSA revolution, we realized that we needed to move to a next level if science and technology was to continue to develop in the Philippines. Beyond PhD programs, we needed better labs and equipment. We could not be forever sending samples abroad to be analyzed. Better libraries, PhDs and postdocs in a broader range of areas. We needed to move to other sciences, to engineering, and to science and math in secondary education. A network of science colleagues embarked on what would become the Engineering and Science Education Project, or ESSEP, the largest scale project yet undertaken for science and technology education in the country. It was almost aborted at the start because it ran into conflicts on fiscal and educational policy with the NEDA. NEDA held the position that the state should not borrow for higher education because while basic education has a public return, higher education only had a private return and so should not be supported from ODA. It's a long debate with them. One can go on and on about the challenges that had to be met. engaging national government agencies, the World Bank, a larger network of universities, high schools, and so on. The project advisory group, composed of 3 local scientists, myself, Dr. Esther Garcia, Dr. Paulino Tan, and 2 foreign scientists, Dr. Joe Cruz, an expatriate, and Dr. David Booth, together with key officials of the DOST, was formed to help guide the project. Officially, its role was to be advisory, and the actual management and running would be with the DOST. But ESEP was trailblazing new territory for the Philippines, procuring very sophisticated equipment like an MBE, finding scientists and laboratories abroad for PhD students and postdocs, working with diverse agencies. Much of it was beyond the experience of the DOST staff. The project advisory group had to mediate these new experiences and territory till the knowledge and expertise was acquired by the DOST staff. The key point I want to make from this going back to the past is that what got us far was a group of science colleagues from different universities and from abroad committed to making a difference. In a paper I wrote for a conference in Khartoum in 1978, a long time ago, I pointed out that when you look at the development of anything great, say the art and sculpture and the great cathedrals of the Middle Ages, or the rise of the sciences in modern Europe, it came from 2 poles. One is the rise of genius, the Michelangelos, the Berninis, the Newtons, and on the other hand, patrons, leaders of society who supported and created a path for their genius. If we are to move to the next level, beyond PhDs in science and research project papers, to strong links with industry and actual creation and innovation that will move our economy up the value chain, we will need individuals and groups who make it their task to bring us to this next level. This should include alumni and friends abroad. I have often retold an experience meeting a young Chinese woman on a trip to San Francisco. We were beside each other on the plane. She had done a master's in finance at Stanford and was working for an investment company in San Jose, California. She was coming back from Shanghai because one of her commitments was to teach 1 month a year in Shanghai and pass on her knowledge of modern finance. But what struck me even more in our conversation was when she said that one of her priorities in her investment company was to get investments for an industrial